I talk a ton on this channel about the Xbox 360 and how I found new love in the system as of late and have went back and played a lot of games on it that I hadn't taken a look at before. One of the great things that comes with this time period and the system being as old as it is the games are relatively easy to find at thrift stores, be it things like Value Village, Goodwill, or even pawn shops. So today we're going to take a look at different things you need to know if you want to go buy a system or some of the games, because maybe you've never played it before. Then these are the things you're going to want to know if you go into a thrift store and pick up a system on the cheap. And the first one is something that everybody will recommend to you, which is go for the slim model if you can. This is typically a black model. It has a built-in hard drive to some extent, while the fat models, which are traditionally an ugly white, don't have built-in hard drives for the most part. Now, the white fat models will have a hard drive if there is a silver attachment along the side. That's the hard drive. It'll say on it how many gigabytes it is. If it's unmarked, it's typically 20 gigabytes, but these can be up as high, I believe, as 320 gigabytes. The slim model hard drive actually pops on the inside door, and it will at least have 4 gigabytes built in that you won't be able to remove. So those systems for sure have built-in memory. And then of course, if you do end up with a system that worst case doesn't have any sort of hard drive attached to it, you can connect a traditional USB drive to one of the front ports, even one of the back ports, and you'll be able to use that as a memory storage device for saving your games and whatnot. Absolutely do not worry about getting a memory card for an Xbox 360. I don't know anybody that has one, and as far as I know, they were discontinued relatively early. Now, at the thrift stores, sometimes they sell them without the power cord, or maybe they throw a power cord in with it. You want to be sure you have the right power cord. So for the most part, the white fat models, which again I don't recommend, use gray cords. It's got a gray power supply, the cord is gray, and there's something like 3 different plugs that it will use depending on which model of Xbox 360 it is. So of course, if you're in the store, you have the system and the power cord in your hand, try plugging it in. If it fits, it fits. But I will tell you, I have brought some home before where the cord didn't fit in the system I had because I picked up a spare cord on the cheap, and now it's just a piece of garbage because I can't plug the cord into the system I have because there's so many different plugs for the fat models. Now, the black slim model has, as far as I know, 2 different power connections, and they're both very different. So as far as the black slim model goes, there is the S model and the E model. The S model is far more prevalent than the E model. The E model almost kind of looks like an Xbox One. It was the one that came out really late in its lifespan. As far as I know, these both use different power supply plugins. And honestly, if you're purchasing an E model without a power supply, you probably want to take a look on eBay to find one, or you're going to have a difficult time just running across one randomly in a store because the system wasn't that popular coming out so late in the Xbox 360's lifespan. Now, there's a lot of different controller options you can get for an Xbox 360. Obviously, the traditional Xbox 360 controller is very widespread, easy to find. They do normally take AA batteries. I've seen them at thrift stores normally without the battery pack. It's just an empty back on there, which you can get if you want to make one of those controllers work and you don't want to buy the battery pack. You can actually get a play and charge kit. What this is a rechargeable battery that snaps in instead of the AA's, and then you can get the cable that connects the system to the controller so that the controller can be charged. Or alternatively, if for some reason you just pick up the cable without a battery, you can use it that way as a wired controller. Due to the popularity of the Xbox 360 controller and its prevalence on the PC, it's pretty easy to find Xbox 360 controllers today. I don't think that there'll ever be a difficult time finding those. Now, if you're looking to go to the stores, pick up some games on the cheap that maybe are more expensive somewhere else, I'll be the first one to tell you that good games are not necessarily expensive games. Some of the best games that came out on the system were very popular, thus had a lot of copies printed, and thus there's just so many copies in circulation that you can pick them up very cheaply. So if you see a game that you think is good and you're thinking you're saving a ton of money on it, you might not be. Some of the best games for the system run you like $2.99 at GameStop, so don't get fooled by $5 or $10 prices at the thrift stores, which you could run into. I know I do see that sometimes at mine. Now on the flip side, if you're looking to get a great deal, flip it and resell it on eBay. This isn't a bad time to do that either. I know my local pawn shop was clearing out all the Xbox 360 games they had for $1, and I ended up reselling some of those after I tried them and maybe didn't like them right away. So there's definitely that option as well. In order to find out what the most expensive games on the Xbox 360 are, just in general, to get a general idea, what I would probably do is just study the most expensive games on the GameStop website. So I would go on the GameStop website, sort by Xbox 360 pre-owned, and then do a filter of prices descending so that you get the most expensive games listed up top. And that most expensive game will actually be this game right here, NCAA Football 14. That game runs at $70 on the Xbox 360 at GameStop, even more on eBay. And that, along with NCAA Basketball 10, are these really ironic, expensive games. Usually people think sports games are cheap games, they're not worth hardly anything, and they're willing to get rid of them for 50 cents or $1 because they have a tough time reselling them. These two are different. They're expensive because they're the last ones released in the series, and at least for the foreseeable future will continue to be that way. So there's also this weird market I've noticed with movie games. They're weirdly expensive. I'm talking things like the original Cars video game, some of the SpongeBob games, the Spider-Man games in particular. There's a handful of Spider-Man games on the Xbox 360, and most of them run north of $20 at GameStop and around that same price range on eBay. So really the only way you can get an idea without me, listing into all of it, things like the Crash games are expensive on the Xbox 360. Because another case of it's odd that Crash ended up on the Xbox 360. You associate him with being a PlayStation mascot. So you really should just take a look at the GameStop website, sort by prices descending, and take an idea of what the most expensive games are on the platform so that you have in your head an idea when you walk into the store what you might be looking for, but it's probably not going to be the best games. The games that are worth the most probably not necessarily the best games. They're probably the more obscure stuff. So if you got a hinkling, you got a thought that maybe it's an expensive game, definitely give it a look while you're in the store because you might have came across something that's pretty collectible and you want to add to your collection. So thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.